Is it possible that the most shocking signing in recent years in Formula One is starting off with a disaster? What if I told you that Ferrari, the most successful team in the sport, has just made one of the most basic and shameful mistakes imaginable? In this video, we'll not only tell you what happened, but we'll show you what no one dares to say about the true root of this technical scandal. We'll also discuss qualifying for the Japanese Grand Prix, where Ferrari is trying to recover. But it's not coming easily. What happened at the Chinese Grand Prix wasn't simply a mistake. It was a clear sign that something much deeper is wrong at Ferrari. And what initially seemed like a double disqualification for technical errors is now turning out to be a precise snapshot of a team that, no matter how hard it tries, has failed to establish itself as a true title contender. This section delves into the heart of the problem that dragged Ferrari into the center of the scandal. Was it a one-time slip-up, or are we facing a structural failure that could jeopardize the entire season? Let's start with the facts. Lewis Hamilton was disqualified after his car, the SF25, was found to have excessive wear on the floor, commonly known as the plank. Post-race measurements revealed that the thickness was below the regulation 9 mm, 8.6 mm on the left and center, and 8.5 mm on the right. Under normal conditions, this type of infraction is automatic. If the car is too low and the floorboard becomes too worn, the punishment is outright disqualification. But what has come to light in the following days raises a series of much more worrying questions. What initially seemed like a simple miscalculation began to reveal itself as a chain of interconnected errors. Everything points to Ferrari not having sufficient data on how Hamilton's car would perform on long runs. During preseason testing in Bahrain, Lewis's SF25 suffered a technical issue that prevented a full race simulation. This limitation deprived the team of crucial information on how the car's setup would be affected over an extended period, especially under fuel load, degradation, and aerodynamic compression conditions. Added to this is another key factor: the changes made between the sprint race, which Hamilton won convincingly, and the main Grand Prix. These modifications were minimal but sufficient to alter the car's aerodynamic balance and, with it, its ground clearance. The result was a car that in theory seemed to comply with the regulations, but in practice, over the course of the race, gradually fell below the legal limits. And while all this was happening, on the number 44 car on the other side of the garage, Charles Leclerc was also disqualified. In his case, the car was found to have a final weight of 899 kilograms, 1 kilogram below the regulatory minimum. In a context where the front wing was replaced after an initial collision, there was speculation as to whether the change affected the car's overall weight. But beyond the technical detail, what is worrying is the pattern. 2 basic infractions in 2 different cars in the same weekend. This goes beyond simple human error. It is a warning sign of a team that is not properly managing its basic procedures. Ferrari, a team with decades of experience, cannot afford mistakes like these. The rules regarding minimum weight and floor wear are not new. They are among the technical foundations of modern Formula One. And the fact that both cars fell into these traps doesn't speak of a coincidence. It speaks of a systemic failure in race preparation, execution, and oversight. To top it all off, the team presented no defense to the FIA. They admitted the error. They accepted responsibility without objection. There were no appeals. There were no complex technical arguments. They simply acknowledged that what had been done was wrong. That, for a team aspiring to the championship, is devastating. The big problem here is that these failures don't just affect the outcome of a single weekend. They leave a profound mark on the team's internal morale, its credibility with the media, and above all, the confidence of its drivers. How can Hamilton trust that the team is providing him with a legal and competitive car if, in just his second race, he's already been removed from the points for such a basic infraction? This disaster in China should be understood not as an isolated incident, but as a wake-up call. Ferrari cannot continue making fundamental mistakes if it wants to keep up with Red Bull, McLaren, or even Mercedes. What happened in China wasn't just a double disqualification. It was a reflection of a technical structure that needs a thorough overhaul. And if action isn't taken quickly, this season could become another missed opportunity for the most iconic team in world motorsport. What do you think? Do you think Ferrari is ready to recover from this blow, or will we see more episodes of this kind throughout the year? Leave your thoughts in the comments, because what happened in China could be just the tip of the iceberg. After the debacle at the Chinese Grand Prix, Ferrari arrived at Suzuka with the pressure on. Not only did they need results to regain credibility with fans and the media, but they also needed to prove internally that what happened in Shanghai was an isolated accident and not a symptom of a deeper crisis. In other words, Japan wasn't just another race. It was the first major post-disaster test. But despite some signs of improvement, the final feeling was bittersweet. Because while there was progress, redemption has yet to be achieved, and the margin for error is reached week after week. From the first day of track activity, a change in the team's operating philosophy was noticeable. After the technical irregularities that led to disqualifications, Ferrari adopted a much more conservative approach, particularly regarding the car's height, a fundamental parameter in the current ground effect era. Engineers increased the SF25's minimum distance from the asphalt, sacrificing downforce and efficiency in exchange for ensuring the car's legality. In Hamilton's words, "We're higher than we'd like, and that's affecting us." A phrase that hides more than it appears, because in a sport where millimeters can make a difference of tenths, compromising height is a mortgage. Even so, there was a small glimmer of hope. Charles Leclerc, with a steady drive and a more consistent pace than in previous races, achieved a solid qualifying session, placing fourth with a time of 1 minute and 27.299 seconds. Just over 3/10 off Max Verstappen's pole, who clocked an impressive 1 minute and 26.983 seconds in the final moments of Q3. It wasn't a brilliant performance, but it was competitive and above all, stable. Leclerc was on pace throughout qualifying, appearing comfortable with the aerodynamic package and without any execution errors. For Ferrari, having a car on the second row was a small triumph, considering the ghosts they were bringing back from China. But the other side of the coin was, once again, Lewis Hamilton. In contrast to his teammates' solid performance, the Briton had a difficult session, marked by a lack of confidence in the rear end and constant understeer in the fast corners of Sector 1 at Suzuka. His final time was 1 minute and 27.610 seconds, placing him in 8th place, more than 6/10 off the leader. Most worryingly, he was overtaken by Isaac Hadjar, a Racing Bulls rookie who managed to sneak into 7th. A direct blow not only to the driver's morale, but also to Ferrari's prestige. The image Ferrari left at Suzuka was that of a team trying to move forward with the handbrake on. They have made adjustments after the mistakes in China, yes, but they still haven't found the balance between technical reliability and pure competitiveness. The SF25 showed some improvement in qualifying pace, but it struggles when it needs to unleash its potential in extreme conditions. And in Formula One, if you can't push the limit without breaking the car, you're out of the fight. Furthermore, McLaren once again confirmed that they are currently the team to beat behind Verstappen. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri took 2nd and 3rd place, respectively, cementing the Woking team as a serious threat to Red Bull at this stage of the season. And while they are advancing, Ferrari is barely containing the damage. It's no longer just about performance, but about image. And Japan, despite showing technical progress, made it clear that full redemption is still a long way off. An important detail was the weather conditions. Intermittent rain was forecast for Sunday, which could significantly alter the outcome of the race. For Ferrari, these variables represented a silver lining. In changing conditions, the individual talent of drivers like Leclerc or Hamilton could make the difference. But that doesn't hide the underlying problem. Ferrari can no longer rely on chaotic scenarios or other people's mistakes to climb positions. It needs pure performance. And that, at Suzuka, was once again lacking in one of its cars. In short, Japan was a respite, not a recovery. Ferrari avoided disaster, but didn't regain its place among the elite teams. Leclerc maintained his honor with a 4th place that inspires optimism, but Hamilton continues to suffer the consequences of a car that doesn't perform as it should. And meanwhile, his rivals don't slow down. If Ferrari fails to find a definitive solution to its technical dilemmas and the lack of confidence of its star driver in the upcoming races, this 2025 season could fizzle out before reaching the halfway point. And that, for a team like Ferrari, would be unacceptable. Is this simply an adjustment phase for a long-term project? Or are we facing the prelude to a major rift between Hamilton and the Scuderia? Leave it in the comments, because Ferrari's story in 2025 still has many pages to write, and not all of them seem to have a happy ending. And in the end, what should have been a weekend of redemption for Ferrari after the China scandal ended up being a bitter mix of limited technical progress and pent-up frustration. Because yes, Suzuka provided some answers, but it also left new open questions that the Maranello team will have to face sooner rather than later. Throughout this analysis, we've gone over the critical points of a situation that can no longer be understood simply as an isolated stumble. In China, Ferrari displayed alarming operational fragility, a double disqualification for technical errors that shouldn't occur in a top-tier structure. It wasn't a matter of ambiguous interpretation of the regulations or a twist of fate. It was, quite simply, a serious failure to enforce the basic rules of the series. From car weight to minimum floor height, everything that could go wrong did. And the worst part, no excuses, no defense, no appeal. In Japan, the story was different, but not necessarily better. Leclerc saved the day with a competitive qualifying session, proving that the SF25 has potential, at least in certain conditions. But Hamilton, still reeling from the after effects of a car that was modified to avoid another complication, struggled with balance, grip, and confidence. And when the 7-time world champion can't make a difference, something structural is wrong. Because we're talking about one of the greatest drivers of all time, and if even he can't find the pace with this Ferrari under these conditions, then the problem isn't the driver, it's the car, or worse, the system that supports him. Furthermore, the most worrying thing isn't just the technical performance. It's the background noise. The drama with FOM, the media manipulation of Hamilton's radio address, Fred Vasseur's heated reaction all indicate that within Ferrari there's a growing tension between the sporting and institutional aspects. A fracture between what the team wants to project and what's actually happening. A rift between the narrative they're trying to control and the reality that slips away with every miscalculated decision, every poorly conveyed message. And so, Ferrari enters the next phase of the championship with more questions than answers. It has a powerful driver duo, it has resources, it has history. But what it lacks, at least for now, is clear direction and an acceptable margin for error. Because in Formula One, it's not enough to be fast. You have to be precise, consistent, and, above all, impeccable in your execution. And that, right now, is what the Scuderia is struggling with the most. Therefore, this moment represents more than just a bump in the road. It's a turning point. Either Ferrari realizes the extent of its mistakes and fundamentally corrects its internal structure, or it risks experiencing another season marked by excuses, almosts, and the eternal promise that next year will be different. What do you think? Do you think Ferrari still has time to reverse this situation, or are we seeing the beginning of the end for its project with Hamilton? Can Charles Leclerc become the silent savior of this team? Or is it time for Ferrari to make drastic decisions before it's too late? Leave your opinion in the comments, because your opinion always contributes to the debate. And if you enjoyed this in-depth, unfiltered analysis, don't forget to subscribe and activate notifications.